Welcome, DuPage.
Hi, my name is Reverend Ross.
I'm Chad Earl,
And I'm Larry Love.
and this is an overview about nutrition. Everybody's favorite topic, I know, and we want to discuss some of the overarching points, and so we can get you moving along your program. So we're going to have some question and answers part of this, but I want to start it out by simply providing a framework for people to work off of. And so again, you have these different levels, level 3, level 2, level 1. Recall that level 3 was an individual who had the most health challenges. And so how should that person design their day? Well, first off, they want to limit their overall intake. And so if you're suffering in this level 3 category, then the first thing you can do is put yourself in an 8-hour eating framework. If you're level 2, you can have a 10-hour framework. And if you are a level 1, which again is the healthiest state, then you want to eat within a 12-hour framework. But again, this is not simply eat ad lib as much as possible. And so you have these frameworks, 8, 10, and 12. And within that framework of consumption, you want to eat 3 meals a day, including the snacks. And so it's not 3 meals plus snack, no. And it's not consuming liquid calories. Can you have coffee? Yeah. Can you have tea? Yes. Green tea, herbal teas? Yes. But can you have energy drinks and sugary juices and soft drinks, even diet, because they're highly dysregulatory? No. And so as a framework to work off of, you have these eating structures, and then you want to not have beverages, but limit yourself to 3 meals in that time frame. Now let's talk about the actual meals themselves. What kind of food should you be consuming during these different time frameworks? Well, first off, you have to consume a certain amount of nutrient-dense foods. And so we know with the COVID situation right now, budgets may be crunched, and so we want to deal with meal planning that's affordable and accessible. And so we want to have meals that include primarily these 3 foods as a construct: leaves, beans, and nuts and seeds. Okay? And then you want to include grains. And so you have to work off of, make sure you consume a certain amount of leaves per day. And when I say leaves, I'm talking about romaine lettuce, spinach, kale, all the greens, turnip, collard, dandelion, mustard. So those are the leaves that you want to focus on trying to consume. That's the leaves. Try to get those in per day. Secondly, you want to consume a certain amount of nuts and seeds. Again, we're talking sunflower, pumpkin, chia, milled flax, seed, okay? And then beans. Now, beans have a very similar structure, so almost any bean outside of pork and beans are great. And so having meal plans that have these 3 food groups are affordable and highly nutritious. And then in this 4th category, you're going to have grains. And so still cut oatmeal, millet, buckwheat, quinoa, all of these grains, amaranth, all these high nutrient grains, great to consume along with the leaves, nuts, seeds, and beans from a meal plan standpoint. Now, what you don't see initially is the animal protein group. And so again, this is going to add a lot of cost to your meal planning. So depending on your budget, what you don't want to do is buy cheap meats like the deli meats, the bolognas, the hot dogs, the cheaper cut meats like the sausages, the links. You don't want to consume those. If you can't get good cuts of meat and high quality meat, then you need to limit your meat consumption and replace your meat consumption with beans, seeds for your protein, okay? And that'll help you, again, from a weight loss standpoint, from a disease prevention standpoint, avoiding some of these processing hormones and chemicals that are in these lower quality meats. And so if you can't get the organic, expensive meats, the seafoods, then you want to simply limit it. Okay, you can have some, but not greater than 1 meal a day of animal protein. Okay? So, in a structure, in an overview, how would you eat these foods? Well, I said you want to consume a certain amount of leaves. Well, how much should I consume? For men, somewhere between 4 to 6 cups. For female, somewhere between 2 to 4 cups. For kids, somewhere between 1 to 3 cups. And when I say kids, I mean somebody from 5 years old to 13 years old. Okay? And so that's what you have for the leaves. The nuts and seeds, for men, 2 to 6 tablespoons. For women, 1 to 4 tablespoons. For kids, 1 to 3 tablespoons. Okay? And then from the bean standpoint, men, half a cup to a cup. Females, a quarter cup to a cup. And kids, a quarter cup to 3/4 of a cup of beans, again, per day. And then lastly, I said the grains. The grains, half a cup to a cup. For men, a quarter cup to a half a cup for females. And for kids, a quarter cup to half a cup as well. Okay? And so how would you eat this kind of plan? I'm kind of saying these different things out in your mind. How do I organize these things? How do I consume these things? Well, from a grain standpoint, simple. For breakfast, you can have a hot cereal. Oatmeal, quinoa, buckwheat, millet. You can consume that. You can put seeds in it. And for flavoring, you can add a little cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, or you can put fruit in it. So that's one way you can consume your grain and seeds. Another way you can consume your grains is with a dinner or lunch with a rice, brown rice, wild rice. You can consume your grains that way. Those are 2 different options to consume your grains per day. With the leaves, a large salad a day, or you can make a greens drink. I don't want to say smoothie, so I know what you're thinking. Yogurt, fruit, protein powder, almost like a dessert drink. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a drink that can optimize your health, lose weight, manage inflammation, push you further down the health. And so you're going to have some leaves, some water, some green tea, some lemon, and something to change the flavor, like a pickle or something like that, just to get your health improved. So that's 2 ways to consume your leaves: a fresh tossed salad or a green drink a day. Okay? So that lets you structure your meal plan, lets you structure how you take in these foods and the serving size, and all of which are quick and easy to produce. Okay? So now I want to break it apart and just do a little, question and answer, and just kind of be the audience, because the audience may have questions around this. And so I'm going to look to my left, look to my right, answer a few of the questions with nutrition, and kind of add a little feedback in this component. Larry, when you think nutrition, what are some of the questions that come up with you, or that you see that most people try to answer?
Yeah, one of the main questions I get with nutrition is, where do I start? Because a lot of people see all this information on the internet, social media. It's all around us, but there's not really one engaging way to begin. So that'll be the question I have for you. Where do you start? What's an appropriate way to start on a nutritional plan?
Good question. And so there's typically, again, the 2 major aspects with nutrition. You either want to add in healthy things to your diet, and you also want to subtract the unhealthy things to your diet. So you say, where should I start? Well, if I was poisoning myself, would I take a multivitamin and keep the poison going? Or would I stop poisoning myself before I take the multivitamin? And so right away you would say, my God, if I'm eating poison, I would not have poison. Like, that just is more effective. But people don't think like that. People say, I want to keep my poison, but then add some healthy stuff to it. I'm wondering why they don't get very much modulation. I want to keep my alcohol, keep my sugar, keep my chips, keep my garbage that I consume. But hey, I add a cup of broccoli to it. Well, what do you expect to happen to a body that's getting routinely poisoned when you put something positive in it? Not much. And so a better strategy would be to decrease and omit some of the more toxic foods that you consume. Spend your energy not poisoning yourself before you try to add healthy things, quote unquote, to a toxic, nutrient deficient overall diet plan.
So, can you speak to the commercialization of nutrition? You see organic, should it be non-organic? What are some of the commercialization and the myths around nutrition when it comes to that?
Great, and so people play this organic game. There's a couple different ways you want to look at it. So when you say organic, does the plant actually have more vitamins and minerals in the organic plant? So the science says that an organic plant actually does have slightly more vitamins and minerals because it's grown in a non-fertilized soil. Okay, so when they do what's called petrochemical farming, they only put back certain minerals that they deplete in the soil, so that actual plant that grows up in that environment isn't as nutritionally rich as an organic plant. But here is the more important component to organic foods. Anybody who saw or sees an organic plant and then sees a conventionally grown plant, that organic plant looks a little bit puny and kind of broken down. You're like, I'm paying $5 for this beaten down sweet potato? Are you serious? Now, why is that? It's because that organic plant had to fight off pathogens and invaders. That conventionally grown plant was grown in an environment that was sterile and was not allowed to develop its immune system. What do we call that? We call it phytonutrients. And that's been shown that gives human beings the greatest immune modulating impact. So when you talk about nutrition, you want to feed the body, yes, with the vitamins and minerals, but you also want to give the body these immune boosters, and that's the phytonutrients, which is quote unquote plant toxins that fight off the invaders. And so the benefits for organic, yes, you get slightly more vitamins and minerals, but the most important thing is it builds robust immunity and protection for our bacteria, virus, microbes in our environment. So our immune system, it helps us to modulate better.
So Chad, one more question. Research indicates that certain nutrient timings can increase your metabolism. How does that actually occur?
Okay, so if you look at some of the science, there's different aspects to caloric intake. One of which is you would say, well, if I ate 100 calories of protein, 100 calories of carbohydrate, and 100 calories of fat, would I actually have to burn up each of these nutrients the same? And so there actually is a cost of metabolism when you process certain nutrients. This is where fat kind of gets its bad name, because when you were to consume 100 calories from steak, for example, you have to process about 40 calories just to metabolize it. So really when you say, I ate 100 calories from steak, you're really only eating 60 calories off the top. So the high protein diets, yes, they have fat and satiety in how you feel, but also you have almost a 40% reduction simply by having these protein diets. So when you eat a 2,000 calorie protein diet, you're eating 1,400 calories, not to 2,000 calories. Now when you eat carbohydrate, it's a little bit varied because it depends on how fibrous the carbohydrate is. Some carbohydrates that you can consume, like a thing from celery or broccoli or a high fibrous food, you consume that and it's actually negative because your body spends so much energy trying to break that fiber down, it's actually worth no calories. So on a lot of these weight loss vegetable diets or weight loss diets like you take Weight Watchers or South Beach or Paleo or Zone, they give you unlimited vegetables, eat as much as you want, unlimited, 0 points. Why is that? It's because these vegetables have a lot of fiber in them, and so they actually create a negative caloric effect when you consume them without a lot of sugar attached to it. And lastly, you have the fat, and fat kind of is interesting. It's a two-sided nutrient. One, fat gives you almost no metabolic additional burning when you consume it. So when you eat 100 calories of fat, you actually get 100 calories. Okay, but here's a caveat to fat. Fat does not raise your insulin, okay? So when I consume fat, it's like I gave you a check and said, here's $1,000. Now, can you spend a $1,000 check? No. Yet you have $1,000. So if you can convert that $1,000 to money through a bank, some kind of ATM, it's actually available to you. Now, what in the body does that? Insulin. Okay? So if your insulin is high, if you're overweight, have a nice sugary meal, orange juice, egg yolks, and toast, those egg yolks, those fat that you consume, you can't burn those. Because the body is going to raise its insulin for the orange juice and the toast, and so you have to store that fat. But if you just have the eggs and the bacon, for example, yes, it's high fat, yes, it has a lot of cholesterol, but you can burn that for energy throughout the day if your insulin level stays low throughout the day. And so you look at nutrient timing, look at macronutrient structure. When you look at weight loss diets, the simple thing to think about is you have a nice clean protein with a nice high fiber vegetable, and you limit some of the high sugary choices and beverages, and so you can be in optimal fat burning.
Excellent.
So with beverages, can we, if we need a certain amount of water, can we substitute some water for coffee?
That's a good point, Reverend Ross, and I did not discuss the hydration requirements for individuals. So your hydration requirements are based on two things: your ideal weight level and your activity expenditure for the day, okay? And so obviously, if you're 100 pounds but you're running 10 miles a day, you have to account for that sweat loss in those 10 miles. Now, if you're the same 100 pounds and you're not running, then you don't need as much hydration because it's just about replacing your body fluids that you urinate out. We have a little bit of sweat throughout the day, but not much, right? And so how much should you consume? It's roughly half of your ideal body weight. So again, I gave you that equation in one of these other videos. Take your height, convert it to inches for men, multiply that number by 2.5 to 3. Females, 1.85 to 2.1. For kids, again, under 14, it's about 1.7. And so you multiply that, get that range, and you divide it in half, and that gives you the ounces, and then to put in the cups, you divide those ounces by 8. But so roughly though, men are roughly between 10 to 15 cups, women are roughly between 8 to 13 cups. Kids are roughly between 4 to 6 cups. Just as a general for hydration. Water only, not water plus milk plus juice. We're talking water only.
So I've heard we need to drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. Is that
right? So if you take your so you take your ideal weight for females, you said 8 glasses, correct?
Yes. Okay,
so 8 times 8 is 64, which is half of 120. 1 or 2, right? And so that's about the average female weight is about 120 to 140. That's how they get that number. So it's for a female who's 5'4".
Okay.
So guys are 8 to 12, females 8. Okay, so that's how you get those numbers.
Okay.
So yeah. So for you customized, you take your height and add that to it, and then that gives you your particular requirements. Again, if you're overactive, you want to add a cup of water per 15 to 25 minutes.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
No problem. So again, just to want to provide a little quick overview on some nutrition to get you started during the COVID program. And we look forward again, as always, to adding the information to making your journey more successful. Thank you very much.